Hello there, my name's Matthew from Packaids Limited near Reading, and this is just a short video to give you an idea of how to create the infinity mailer, also known as the never-ending mailer or the magic mailer. Basically, from one sheet, die cut, printed both sides, we can create a never-ending continuous mailer. This is usually seen as something that's quite complicated. However, the actual finishing of the job is automated and very quick. The only thing that takes a little bit of time is understanding how the imposition goes together for such a mailer, which I will demonstrate. So this is the printed sheet, that's the front and that's the reverse. As you can see, we've had certain items die cut, certain items creased here and there. And although we would automate this for the purposes of demonstration, I've just put some double-sided tape down where the glue is going to actually be adhered together, which will be folded on machine like that. So if I just get that done. We did a large print run of these recently, however at the NEC print show exhibition, this was one of the very most popular items of samples that came flying off our stand that we were there. That was in 2015, and we will be back there again this year, 2016. Once sent through the machine and the glue is dried, you have your finished item, which will then carry on, never ending and carrying on. Okay, so when setting files up for this project, the only difficult thing is indeed the imposition of the artwork. The actual printing is very straightforward, just straightforward sheet work job. The finishing, that's quite straightforward, die cutting and then folder gluing. It's really getting all your imagery in the correct place. Any size, up to probably you could fit something onto a B1. It would have to probably be semi-automated when actually finishing, but it is possible. Only thing to bear in mind is the fact that you could end up with almost a tabloid size finished item, which anyone who's remembers the old tabloid spreads, broadsheets, trying to actually fold those in half and half again wasn't particularly manageable. This item is 170mm square. You can indeed have portrait, landscape, odd sizes. The only thing to ever bear in mind is that either width-wise or height-wise, your printed flat sheet will double in size only one way. So if, for instance, you were looking to do an A4 landscape, your width would go from your finished size of 297 up to 594, which means you could still fit two up on a SRA2 sheet, for instance. With the artwork, I would highly recommend that you put your pages in order of presentation that you would want to see them. It's 4 pages, or actually 3.5 pages, and the half page is on page 3. The only thing to bear in mind here is that you will have imagery from the page previous showing either side. In this case we did something so that actually kind of works with it, and it's not that noticeable. Right, once you've got your artwork together, all the elements, the last thing you want to be doing is trying to cut these up and put them into the imposition. So again, highly recommend that you do something as straightforward as saving it as a PDF. Make sure you've got your bleed, and you need to include your bleed, and save them as single pages with or without crops. That's no problem as long as it's got the bleed. So I'll just save this down. I would put bleed. sorry, it's a bit of a big file all in all, lots of shading. However, once you've done that, if you're able to open up a new document, which is pretty much a duplicate, again this is just 170mm square, 4 pages, and all I'm going to do is bring the pages into the document, just so I've got no chance of losing any elements. Once they're in your document, I would recommend creating a box that is your exact size that you need, so you're not showing any bleed at the moment. So 170, and just centering it in there at the moment, and this will assist you in transferring it over into an imposed sheet. We can bring the bleed out again once that's done. So almost back where we started with, but no bleed showing, but it is there if we need it. The next thing I would suggest is going to your master page to put some guides down. It's all about putting the pages into sections, so it's really quarters and halves. So if you're able to put in your 2 halves in the centre, so in this case I'm just doing 170 divided by 2, and sorry, what was that, 85, and again just doing 85 divided by 2, 85 divided by 2, that is 42.5, 42.5 plus 85, 42.5 plus 85. So that's in quarters, and just for my own benefit, it's quite nice just to have your actual dead cuts on the outside, so that everything's snapping to. So there we go, we're all in quarters there, regardless of whether this was landscape or portrait. Again, it's just putting it into quarters. You won't need all of those guides for each page, but it just helps to have them on every page. So if we go back here, we can see that all the guides are there. Now it's very difficult for me to start manipulating this imagery and it make a lot of sense. So what I've done already is to put in some page sections, because on page 1, that's going to be split into 2 sections, a left panel and a right panel. On page 3, that's going to be split into 3 sections, left, centre and right. Starting to get a bit self-explanatory. Very last page is actually a top and a bottom panel. Page 3, that has the most work required, which as you'll see, there's plenty there. That was the only one I needed to amend the bleed on a little bit more, because that had the bleed, and I just want to make that the actual size it's going to be at the moment. So how does that equate? Basically we're going to be splitting the PDF into these sections. So we'll start with the very first page, which is actually the easiest. So that is going to end up with 2 panels, left and right. If I put the guides back on, what I need to do is actually copy and then paste straight on top. So there's now actually 2 copies there. Ta-da. And all I'm going to do is bring one of the boxes over via the handle and the other one back here. So that's now split in half. Again, page 2, and this is why I find it much easier to be working with a complete PDF rather than all your elements on one page, because otherwise you end up having to group and all kinds. Let's see what we do on page 2. Page 2 is split into 3 panels. So first thing I need to do is to copy, sorry I'm using shortcuts here, but and so it doesn't look like much has happened, but now I've now got 3 copies of that PDF, one on top of each other, and bring my guides up. What I'll do is I'll do the centre one first, so I'll bring that to the centre, snap into that guide, snap into that guide, and then bring in the next one over. So I've got a left panel, and lastly this one. So hopefully that makes sense that I've now split that into 3 panels. Put those back, and as per the guide there. Alright, I'll go to page 4, just get the easiest out of the way. Page 4 we've got a top and a bottom panel. Bring my guides back up. I need another copy of this, copy and paste into the same position. Bring one of the handles down. There we go. And the next one. Is there. So again, 2 copies split into 2 as per that guide. So page 3, that's the most complicated out the most elements that are needed. So basically we've got a centre left panel, right centre panel, and then bottoms and tops. So for this I'm going to need 6 artworks available. So again, if I copy, paste, 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 paste. Right. Just obviously got to remember which ones you've done. So let's bring that one. Sorry, it's getting a bit heavy on the graphics. I'm just going to turn the display performance to typical. Just speed things up a little bit on this one. Okay, so I've got one centre left, one centre right. Just bring this up. There's one there. That looks good. And that should be the last one there. So if I was to explode that out, you should see. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so that's it. That's the artwork now in a position that it can be taken into the last document for an imposition. And in this case I am going to be using the ABC heads, fronts, otherwise it's just far too complicated when you just see the imagery. And this is the imposition, which looks quite hectic, but it's not as bad as it could be. So as I mentioned, when you have your finish size either up or down, the width or the height doubles. So this finished item will be 170 square, hence the width is 340 on the final piece of artwork that's getting imposed. I've got 3mm bleed all the way around, and again this is something that's worth splitting into sections with guides. Again, you're talking about the same measurements as you were using in your last document, so I'm just going to put in a few here. 340 divided by 2 should be 170. Divided by 2. I always like to have fronts and the backs. So again, it's just taking 170 divided by 2, which is 85, and that should be 42.5. That should be 42.5 plus 85, I think. Again. What's that? That's 170 plus 42.5. And lastly, 255. Again, just basically creating a grid, and that just kind of helps a little bit in knowing where you're putting things, and again snapping things in the right place. So what I'm going to do is, I've got the artwork underneath. Just for these purposes, I'm actually going to grab hold of both layers, the artwork and the reference that I've got here, and that should pick up both elements and just helps me to place it correctly. So I'm going to copy that, go over here, and I can see where and the orientation that I need to get that into. So I'm just pasting in. I need to rotate 180. Just make sure we're There we go. So that's nicely done upside down. Put that into there, and if I take off the page section, you'll see the artwork is there underneath. And we'll just go back to the next side, copy, paste, again 180, and just put into place. So that's page 1 done. Let's go to page 2, 3 panels. So again, I'm going to copy that, and that goes down here. Paste. These don't get rotated. That does go to the left. To the right. Copy. Paste. Oh. Lovely. And the center panel. Copy. Paste. And if I just take off the page sections, you'll see that the artwork is starting to take effect. I'm going to go to the back panel now, as again get the easiest done first. So this one is the top of the artwork, but it actually goes to the foot. Just there. Which and we go grab the the bottom panel, which on the Impose page goes to the top. Lovely. Obviously you can see here where the glue areas are marked up, and you can see what I meant about this area now starting to look a little bit complicated. It's not too bad when you've got something to go by. So page 3, left top panel, so that needs to be rotated, and we'll put that over here. Go back, page 3 top right panel, again we'll rotate that. Sorry, jogging about a bit because I've got the high res on this document. Where are we putting that? Over there. Let's just check that one more time. Where are you going? Do apologise, managing to make it look more complicated than it actually even is. Paste. Hopefully this is the last one. Okay, with any luck that should look a little bit better. That does indeed. As you can see, it looks a lot more complicated than it actually is once you've got the artwork there. Page 1. There we go. And that is almost it. The only thing left to do is to take out your bleed again, which you should be able to do just by the handles. Just the outer edges, although where the glue section is, it's not a bad idea to put some bleed into that section as well. bring that out a little bit as well. Right, and there you have it. That is your final artwork for creating a never-ending mailer. If you need any more advice or help, please feel free to let us know. If you would need us to create a die for you, that's fine as well. We can supply a cutter guide, and if you'd like this document for reference against I didn't mean to do that. And yes, if you would like this document so you can reference as well as to what part of your pages go where, more than welcome to contact us. Thank you very much for your time.